Hello and welcome to Oaklandside 510. I'm Tasneem Raja, editor-in-chief of the Oaklandside, and we are thrilled that you have joined us for yet another episode. Each week on the 510, we catch you up on the biggest news and we take a deep dive behind the headlines. Today's deep dive, the Oakland sports renaissance. From soccer to basketball to baseball, Oakland's sports scene is experiencing a rebirth. What is driving this trend, and can Oaklanders let themselves love again and trust that these teams will stay and thrive in Oakland? I'll be talking with Tommy Craggs, former Deadspin editor and current contributor to the Oaklandside, about this exciting chapter in Oakland athletics. And we're going to close out with a treat. Oakland sports writer extraordinaire Dan Moore is going to share his favorite Oakland sports moments. Those stories plus headlines coming up. I'm here with Esther Kaplan, our deputy editor, to run through some of our latest headlines. How you doing, Esther?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Okay, I'm excited to start off with a nature story. Here is the headline. Sequoia Country Club plans to cut 175 redwoods. Some neighbors are opposed.
Well, there's a lot to unpack here. Sequoia Country Club is a huge club. It's more than 100 acres up in the East Oakland Hills. And as part of a major landscaping project, they're redoing all their irrigation and everything. They're planning to cut down 175 redwood trees, which are protected in Oakland. That's about half the redwoods on the property. Overall, they say the project will make the course more environmentally friendly and require less water. They say they're planning to replace the redwoods with more drought-tolerant trees such as native oaks and laurels.
I mean, all of this sounds like a good thing. We know golf courses use a lot of water. Why are the neighbors upset?
They like the trees, Tasneem.
Sure, okay.
Neighbors found out about the club's plans in a letter that the city sent to a couple hundred local residents on July 7th. And since then, they've been coming to community input meetings. They started an online petition that's gotten hundreds of signatures. They want to preserve these redwoods.
If you're interested in learning more, we've linked to all of the reporting in this episode in the show notes. Go check it out. Okay, next story. What did Oakland buy last year? Much is a mystery.
Well, this is a story about government transparency, in this case, the lack of it. So the Oakland city government buys a lot of stuff, everything from ammunition for police officers to irrigation equipment for parks. The city council has to approve the big ticket items, over $250,000, but anything under that can be approved directly by the city administrator as long as that office publishes an annual report detailing all their spending. And for the last 2 straight years, Justin Johnson, Oakland city administrator, simply hasn't done that.
Okay, how much money are we talking about here?
Well, it's kind of hard to know because they aren't sharing. But in 2023, the last year we got a report, it added up to about $10 million. That's less than 1% of the city budget, but every million counts these days, as we know.
Yeah, that's still $10 million. What is behind these delays?
City officials told us it's due to a restructure. Basically, a different department took on responsibility for the report, and city council members haven't yet expressed any concern about the delay. But in the past, council members have been concerned about whether the government is buying local, whether they're bidding contracts competitively. And the absence of this information definitely raises transparency concerns. A spokesperson for the city told the Oaklandside that they do expect a report this fall.
Okay, well, we'll definitely be keeping an eye out for that and covering what it includes. Okay, here's another one. A rare East Bay bald eagle nest captivates residents. I know this was a very popular story.
I love this story. It's so cool. For the first time in recorded history, which for birding goes back less than a century, there is a successful bald eagle nest in Oakland with live hatchlings.
Oh, amazing.
Back in March, residents near the Oakland-Piedmont border spotted the distinctive nest. It's more than 6 feet across.
Oh, wow.
In a eucalyptus tree near Oakland's Mountain View Cemetery. Now birders can go there and check out the fledgling eagles in flight. Just obviously be sensitive, give them their space, and they're quiet. We want these hatchlings to succeed.
Yeah, totally, because bald eagles, am I right in thinking that they're still pretty rare?
Yes, this is actually an important environmental story because bald eagle populations have been in decline for a while, since the mid-20th century, according to experts. But as a result of environmental regulations, Crucially, a 1972 ban of the pesticide DDT, bald eagle populations have very slowly been making a recovery. This is a powerful sign of that turnaround.
Okay, if you want to see pictures of these birds, we have a very cool shot in the story of one of the parent birds and one of the hatchlings, and some really great images of people just looking up at the nest in wonder. Okay, our last headline. Oakland's first AME church bids farewell to stately Telegraph Avenue sanctuary as demolition begins. What's the story here?
Well, this is a sad, but also, in a way, a celebratory story about Oakland's oldest Black congregation, the First African Methodist Episcopal Church. The church's history goes all the way back to 1858, just a few years after the city's founding. Back then, it doubled as one of the first schools in Oakland for Black children. In 1954, the church moved to this location on Telegraph Avenue, which served as a centerpiece for the community for decades until a tragic night back in 2023 when a fire broke out and gutted the building.
Yeah, I remember we covered that at the time. It was a huge loss.
The congregation has persevered. They've been operating out of a few different buildings around Oakland since then. So last week, they held what they called a deconsecration to mark the official start of the demolition and the conversion of it back to a secular space. And they turned it into a celebration of the church's history with songs, scripture reading, and remarks from prominent local elected officials, such as Councilwoman Carol Fife and Mayor Barbara Lee, who talked about growing up in an AME church.
Wow.
Church leaders say that with the demolition underway, they can now make plans for whatever comes next. They may find a new space or rebuild there.
Okay, thank you so much, Esther. Coming up, the surprising boom in Oakland's sports scene. If you've been following Oakland sports news over the last few years, you might think it's been all bad news. The Warriors left for San Francisco in 2019. The Raiders departed for Las Vegas in 2020. And just last year, the A's announced that they're heading to Sacramento and eventually Las Vegas. But while those departures have dominated headlines, something else has been happening in Oakland. New teams have been forming, finding devoted fan bases, and putting down roots in a city the major leagues left behind. To learn more about this story, we're joined by Tommy Craggs. Tommy is the former editor-in-chief of the sports news site Deadspin, and he edits sports coverage for the Oaklandside. Tommy, welcome to the 510.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, Tommy, when people think about Oakland sports in recent years, they probably think about loss, right? Losing the Warriors, the Raiders, the A's, but you have been following a very different story. What has been happening?
Yeah, it's been this incredible period of growth for smaller, more community-centered teams. We have the Ballers in baseball, the Roots and the Soul in soccer. There's the Oakland-based Women's Premier Basketball Association. As the big franchises have cleared out of town, you're seeing this flowering of a different model of sports and a different way for the city to relate to its sports teams.
Okay, that's super interesting. I want to talk about some of these teams in particular. Is it fair to say the Oakland Roots seem to be leading this charge, right? Tell me about them.
Yeah, they were founded in 2018 as a semi-professional soccer team. They now play in the USL Championship, which is the second tier of American professional soccer. They played before sold-out crowds at Laney. They sold out their home opener at the Coliseum this year.
Oh, wow.
What I think is really interesting about them is this explicit community orientation. They do a lot of the things local sports teams do, community partnerships, things like that, but they also have a unique ownership structure where fans get to own a piece of the team. They did an initial investment round in 2023, raised $3 million that way, and everyone who contributed became essentially a part owner of the club.
You can't talk about New Oakland sports teams without talking about the Ballers. I know they're really hot right now.
I mean, the Ballers are probably the big story of the moment. In just their second year of existence, they're the best team in the Pioneer League. One of their advantages over their other teams in the league is they get to pay California's higher minimum wage, and they are now dominant.
Tell me about some of the other teams.
So we have the Oakland Soul. They're a women's soccer team started in 2022, run by the same club as the Roots. There's also the Golden State Valkyries. They're the WNBA team. They're in their first year. Are they Oakland? Are they not Oakland? What's the deal here? Well, they are very much a San Francisco team now. They play at the Chase Center, but they have become in a really interesting way embraced by Oaklanders. They do, their watch parties in the East Bay, and it is a very Oakland sort of fandom to this team that plays in this like gleaming palace in San Francisco. The other thing about the Valks is that their fan base is pretty queer and black at a time when the WNBA, in the way it sort of presents itself, is getting a lot straighter and whiter.
Okay, so what is driving this boom? Why are we seeing all of these teams come online now?
I'll start in the past. There's actually this really fascinating document from 1968. It was a story in Sports Illustrated by Frank DeFord, and it's about the proliferation of major professional sports in Oakland. The magazine counted 5.5 professional teams based in Oakland, which it said was more than any other city besides New York and Chicago. And I think one of the things we're seeing with the kind of reorientation around the community is a reaction to losing all those teams. And we're seeing this direct response to sort of the forces that led those teams to abandon Oakland.
We've talked about all of these heartbreaking departures. Like, why? How did the teams and the owners explain why they were leaving?
Whether it's the Warriors, whether it's the A's, whether it's the Raiders, the refrain was the same, which is that Oakland just can't support a big, money-making endeavor like a professional sports team. And it was just this incredibly insulting refrain from these owners saying, well, you guys just don't care, so we're going to leave. And I think part of the enthusiasm for these new teams is just an enthusiasm by fans for teams that actually want to be there and that actually seem to care about the relationship with fans.
Okay, so I want to talk about fans. What's the fan experience like?
The Ballers game is probably the best example. It is minor league baseball, and that is fun as hell. And ticket prices are very reasonable. Food prices are pretty good.
What's the cost? Like, what should you expect to shell out?
The cheapest Ballers tickets are $11, and at a Roots game, tickets start at $18.
Yeah. I will say this. I had not attended a professional sports event of any kind since I was a kid until last year. My husband and I got a babysitter, and we went to a Ballers game, and we had a total blast. I actually now am keeping an eye on the theme nights that they do. So we've been to teachers night, first responders night. I am hooked. It's got me wondering whether this new sports landscape in Oakland is going to pull in non-sports fans.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what they're going for. You will see families at Roots games or Ballers games who would never have been able to afford a Warriors game. And I think a big part of it is that people feel a sense of ownership. Even if they're not literally owners of a share in the team, they do feel a sense of ownership. This is a thing that is happening in the community, down the street, in your neighborhood.
Okay, so for any listeners who want to go check out a team, go check out a game, how do you recommend they get started?
I would say go to a Valks game. It is a very different experience from any other professional basketball game you might have gone to.
And can you paint the scene for us a little bit?
Yeah, it is extremely relentlessly purple.
That's their team color, right?
Yeah. And that's all you see, really. They are very aware that they have a ton of Oakland fans. And so you hear Oakland music, you see Oakland celebrities, things like that.
Okay, so I want to get into the economics a little here. Number one, the teams are turning to the community to say, support us, in part because they can't expect the kind of corporate backing, right?
Yeah, I think the big thing here is that you will not see the sort of relationship that most cities have with their professional sports team, using fans' sort of loyalties, their nostalgia, to essentially blackmail the city into paying for a new stadium. And here now with these sort of community-owned teams, these small fry teams, you're not going to see anything like that. I have to say, just as a fan, it is just a lot more pleasant to experience that.
Thank you so much, Tommy. This has been a lot of fun. Tommy, I will see you at the game.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Tommy Craggs, everybody. Tommy is a contributing editor to the Oaklandside. He is on the team that is bringing you Orb, the Oakland Review of Books, a new literary and cultural digest for Oakland. Coming up, some of the most Oakland moments in Oakland sports history. Oakland has its share of legendary sports moments. From Rickey Henderson breaking the all-time steals record and lifting third base into the air,
The bag from its moorings and holds it aloft.
to Clarence Davis's legendary Sea of Hands catch.
Looking. He's under the gun. He's caught. He throws. It is. Oh, he caught it.
To the Warriors, Klay Thompson's epic 37-point quarter.
And 37 in a quarter.
But besides the athletes themselves, something else has made these moments special. Oakland. So as we transition to a new era of professional sports, contributor Dan Moore brings us his list of the top 5 all-time most Oakland moments in sports.
Number 5, Rickey Henderson breaking Lou Brock's all-time stolen base record. Rickey Henderson, who grew up in Oakland, played high school ball at Oakland Tech, was drafted by the A's out of high school, and was simultaneously the most confident and joyful player in all of baseball, epitomized something sacred and fundamental about Oakland's soul. The image of him diving headfirst into third base before a sold-out crowd at the Coliseum when he broke that stolen base record, jerking the bag off the ground and raising it above his head. It's an Oakland sports moment when it truly felt like not just an athlete, but the whole city was on top of the sports world. Number 4, Raiders win their first Super Bowl. No team, perhaps in all of American pro sports, better represented the soul of its city better than the Raiders did Oakland's. And that relationship was at its absolute zenith in 1977. Their victory cemented on an absolutely epic 75-yard interception return by Hall of Fame cornerback Willie Brown that still plays in slow motion in every Raider fan's mind. Number 3, the A's win 20 games in a row. The A's in the early 2000s were the greatest underdog story in all of sports. The A's were predicted to be bad that season, and for the first half of the year they were. But on the back of a team that general manager Billy Beane had ingeniously stacked with young talent, they went on a torrid second-half surge that culminated in this 20-game winning streak. But it's how they won that last game that's truly cinematic. Oakland started the game by jumping out to an 11-0 lead against the Royals, but they quickly gave that up. They fought back and entered the bottom of the ninth with the game all tied up. A's manager Art Howe pinch hit Scott Hatterberg, a misfit toy that was one of Beane's signature finds that offseason. Hatterberg hits a walk-off home run. The whole city had packed itself into the Coliseum that night, and everyone lost their minds. Number 2, the Warriors' 2015 championship parade. Oakland sports had been defined for a few decades by that point by owners who either refused to spend on their team and on the community, or who didn't much like the town. See Mark Davis and John Fisher. So when the Warriors won that year on the back of Steph Curry, the most exciting player in the sport, it didn't just call for a parade. It called for a reclamation of pride and a reminder to the world that Oakland was a sports city capable of celebrating like nobody else, and so everyone showed out. More than 1 million people crowded into downtown Oakland that day. "I can't tell you how good it feels," said Curry, addressing the crowd from the stage at the end of the route, "celebrating the city of Oakland like we should." Amen, Steph. Number 1, the reverse boycott. This was the most rousing instance of grassroots fan activism in sports history. In 2023, the owners of each of Oakland's beloved sports institutions had decided to abandon the city because they thought they could make more money elsewhere. First, the Raiders and the Warriors left in 2019 and 2020, and in April 2023, A's owner John Fisher finally announced he'd be following in their footsteps. But fans weren't having it. On Tuesday, June 13th, the same day the Nevada State Senate approved public funding for Fisher Stadium in Las Vegas, A's fans staged a protest, a plan to pack the Coliseum with fans for a Tuesday night game against the Rays, to refute the lie that Fisher had for years been manufacturing about A's fans as part of his effort to win approval to abandon them, which was that they don't care about A's baseball. In this, it succeeded wildly, putting on display precisely the sense of defiance and soul that makes Oakland so singular of a place, and Oakland sports fans so singular a community. The San Francisco Chronicle called it the loudest middle finger in Bay Area history.
That's our show. Thank you for listening. Oaklandside 510 is an experiment that we're trying here at the Oaklandside, part of Cityside Journalism Initiative's network of newsrooms in the East Bay. We're planning this as a 10-episode series for now, but if you love it, we would love to do more. We will be reaching out at the end of this pilot run about ways that you can help us keep it going. And if your organization would like to sponsor some episodes, we would love to talk. That email address is editors@oaklandside.org. And by the way, we've read everything you guys have sent in. Keep it coming, and we'll be getting in touch with some of you. Thank you to Tommy Craggs for joining us to talk about Oakland's sports renaissance. Thank you to our audience. This show was produced and engineered by Charlie Mintz. Esther Kaplan was the show's editor. I'm Editor-in-Chief Tasneem Raja. See you next week.